A brief synopsis of Christian 21's information and revelations for the Great Spiritual Awakening by Leon George Sinclair. A breakdown of Christian's last mega breakdown video. The video where the sound went 20 minutes into it. Your mind creates the boundaries of the projected illusion, projected both physically and psychologically into the mind of the repressed via the daily trials and tribulations of merely existing here in third density. The trapping and fineries, gifts and pleasures, sights and sounds of the holographic prison of your current reality are manifested as apparently obvious when informed. Mini lessons of the daily ritual of existence that we all progress on our way through the age of our existence. But don't forget that lessons are forged in the mind, and that understanding is the key to wisdom. Therefore, if they can control your perceptions themselves, if they can find a way for you yourselves to create the walls of the prison, then it's a lot easier for them to control you. They can then control you via media publications and scientific peer-reviewed papers, by experts, and by those noted and appointed scholars of days gone by, the ones who wrote the hymn sheets that those these days are all still singing from. All were 33rd degree Freemasons or worse. Also by the education system built on the shoulders of those above, born from the last reset. By all means necessary they had you by the scrotum sac, fingers clenched so that skin and human testicle tissue was squelching out between their fingers, like when you squeeze a partially filled water balloon. The latex-filled water balloon squishes out between your fingers. Now imagine that with testicular matter. I'm not sure what testicular matter is called, but it's the baby-making bollock material that your nuts are comprised of. Well, they had you all by that shit. We all took it as true, as second nature, because of the setting of the lessons in a classroom. With a teacher teaching, they wouldn't after all be teaching anything if they didn't know what they were talking about, would they? Or would they? You see, they have to pass exams themselves to even be able to teach in the first place. This is to ensure that they know what to do and what to say when they walk to a classroom for the first few times, so they are comfortable with being able to stand in front of a load of kids and actually get through the day and not look like they do not know what they are talking about. It worked so well for most children, yet for a percentage, it was not working. They knew this would happen. It was a great opportunity for them to invent problematic children, truants, and schools for naughty kids. You need to fully understand that all illnesses, conditions, diagnosis, syndromes, diseases, etc., they are all experimental. If they are not experimental, then they are the fruit of research of previous experimentation, so they are not genetic diseases and illnesses. Possibly second generation they are, because they are the fruit of research of the first generation. Can you not see this yet? Have you been following Christian 21? No? Gutted then. Best fast track as fuck if you can. You are fighting the enemy within, using erroneous parasitic script with the code heavily loaded towards cynicism, pessimisms, greed, jealousy, lust, hate, competition, gluttony. Sound familiar? The 7 deadly sins are the driving force after the 1728 reset. This is why you have even heard of the 7 deadly sins. These are sins that will thwart your ascension, yet they do not mention that part. They cast it in a biblical context, as usual, to hide it whilst revealing it, as is the way. The pineal gland in most people has had a downgrade by the insertion of nanofibrous structures that are indistinguishable from natural human tissue, making its discovery by modern science impossible. Yet this nanofibrous structure actually mimics the gate that the pineal gland has become. Helen Morris describes it as similar to thus: imagine a mountain with a river flowing down it. The water in the flowing river is all in you that is good, pure, perfect, and clean, but the parasites have installed a gate on the river, a dam, and also a canal that bypasses the gate, traversing the rear of the gate's flow of pure water to the front of the dam's flow. This canal is then polluted with everything impure, and it's only the impure information that reaches your conscious mind for you to decide upon and formulate with. You only have access to impure information, mentally, physical, and emotionally. This is only because of the 1666 battle that the Greys had with the Atlantean Irish Tartarian survivors. Many years after the occupation started, the Atlantean Tartarian people, who were of a higher density until 1666, when the Greys almost lost this human farm to a bunch of bleed-through Atlantean Tartarian Irish pikey UFO caravan travelers in 12th density. They are no longer 12th density. After that battle, they reincarnated here as food, same as you, mind-wiped, same as you, waiting for the EBS, same as you, or not waiting in most cases, as waking up was a whole lot harder than anyone assumed. After all 4,000 ancient souls, plus 200 million star seeds, or people who volunteered to come here and help wake up the populations in the final hours of the old satanic system. The old paradigm is failing and NPC algorithms are crashing in real time, already unable to compute the complexities of the minimal micro-revelations. The NPC clutches at straws as the end game approaches like a freight train with spikes on the bull bars. NPCs vocalize more and more ridiculous and desperate explanations for what is, to the awake, quite an obvious conspiracy that we are well acquainted with for several years and can explain off the bat as second nature. NPCs will wrestle with this explanation as if trying to extinguish a fire before it consumes their entire world, physical and psychological. Testing times ahead, we haven't even gotten started yet. The artificial nature of the natural world we occupy is coordinated by your actual perceptions of the illusions of a plethora of overlays generated in some of what you understand to be the stars in the night sky. Skynet 1 is the projection equipment to generate the overlays in front of you. They are not stars or distant suns whose light has traveled 186,000 miles per second, or 300,000 kilometers per second, to get to you. Although it does sound quite quaint and compact in its elegancy, its explanation is, yet, just more glue to hold in place your separation from reality, to keep at a distance all other sentient life hidden behind parsecs of distance and light years of understanding. Yet it is all but a stone's throw from you right now, true reality, in the perception of your cerebral landscape's fake view, a mixture of augmented physical senses, carried out at the genetic level, pre-birth implanted in your family tree many epochs ago, or even as recently as post-1728 when the last reset got going. These adaptations and physical augmentations of your vessel's parameters were necessary to guarantee for 1,000,000% fact that you would never ever even notice a bleed-through, even if it was right in front of you. Your vibration and expected expectations of the perceived perceptions of the consensus. Reality that you all live inside will augment the physical and perceptible reality of the overlay or overlays in your paradigm's physical and entangled quantum state, meaning everything you actually know about, as well as everything near you, everything that you can see, smell, hear, taste, and touch. All these attributes will meld together in a semi-resplendent rendition of reality, rendered in most part by the gap-filling emotional embroidery and rose-colored lens of the expected expectations of the consensus's perceived perceptions. As I said previously, and many times, this information is only different. It is not incorrect. It may be unusual, or at first seem silly. But, as we have discussed a bunch of times in the last 4+ years, how silly was it to roll up your sleeve to protect others? So let's define the term silly, along with another bunch of terms such as safe and effective, also the term proven research, and also science has shown, also scientists agree on, and also latest research has proven. Let me explain modern science so that small children can understand. You have science enthusiasts in varying age ranges. The one thing they all have in common, if nothing else, is that they all like science. In general, maybe just chemistry or just physics. But you get me, and hey, Pardon the terminology here, but it's third density, and I need to explain myself within the confines of that arena. They gravitate towards funding pots in their specified fields through whatever channels are appropriate to their products or services, general applications. Scientists do not work for free. They do, however, beg. They beg for funding in the most precocious ways, elevating their worth, their results, and their value. As is the norm, it's institutionalized to do that, for funding and a permanent job, or at least as permanent as the next round of funding is. Yet, funding is a carrot, not held by a man on a donkey, yet held by a child killer riding his grandmother's shitbox around the circus stage of a Truman Show existence, where the Muppets and puppets pirouette a revolution in the dance macabre on the stage of your life, as you sit in the theater of your own existence without even realizing that the entire theater is the stage, and it is you yourself in that theater and on that stage, amazed by the lights and makeup, bewildered by the smoke and mirrors, yet as the canned laughter fades and the piano stops playing, the can-can girls stop dancing, the lights flicker momentarily, then all come on at once, like at the end of a night out in the 1990s, in an illegal rave. Off your pickle on a handful of paper squares and some disco biscuits, the tall, sexy blonde called Davina, who works as a model, that you were snogging since 2 a.m., when you sniffed that last line of ketamine, she shapeshifts as the lights come on, into a 6-foot-tall geezer called Dave with 3 o'clock stubble pushing through his Estee Lauder foundation. He's a bricklayer, and that wasn't a pair of pliers and 2 tennis balls in Davina's skyrocket. It was Dave's meat and 2 veg. It's at that moment where you realize that you ended up in the gay bar next door to the club you thought you were in the queue for after you left the last club that closed at 1 a.m. A simple schoolboy error. It's to be expected on 8 ecstasy tablets and 3 grams of Colombian Coke. It's no big deal, but as your pupils adjust to the bright lights, reality kicks in all of a sudden like quantum state reduction. You realize the enormity of the situation you are in because Davina wants you to come back to his gaff and put some Barry White on and run you a Radox bath. Get out the poppers and that. We have all been there. There's no need to be shy. It's how far you let it go that separates the wheat from the chaff. Don't forget that what happens in 3D stays in 3D. Laugh out loud. You see that all that they need is for a handful of NPCs to latch onto this new trending slogan, whatever that slogan, fad, pastime, product, music is. It only takes 1% of the NPC community, which in fact numbers 97% of the actual population of this planet's population, to cause mass consensus through the mainstream media, radio, newspapers, also the government sectors who have no choice but to advertise LGBTQ, for instance, and whatever the government say that they are to side with. Don't forget that these people are all herd people. They exist in the herd and cannot leave. They are doomed, so fuck them. Sorry, but it is what it is. We don't get to exit a several thousand-year enslavement and containment by parasites every day and be awake before the public even go to sleep, let alone wake up and smell the coffee. We were awake before the coffee was delivered. We were awake before the coffee beans left Colombia, with the 1990s cocaine, to go and get dragged down by an NPC naysayer. Seriously, you will kick yourself after if you do that. Let them do what they will. There is no time left to make a difference anyway in the long term. There's only a few thousand online viewers who grasped it anyway. Everyone else can expect to suffer great breathing difficulties when the air is removed from their lungs. Unable to inhale, unable to exhale, they will perish in a vacuum of reality, sucked off by the Dyson of truth. They will be no more. Even fishermen and women in canoes of the Amazon River in Colombia have a wind-up radio in the boat, and these days they have a Galaxy 22 Plus Android or iPhone 16 Pro Max, so the promulgation of information these days is instantaneous, less than minutes, even with a slow connection. Whereas years ago, warning of the reset was a verbal situation, maybe some people sent a raven to King's Landing to bring word of the White Walkers' descent from the Wall, to cull the population and recruit and consume babies when they had grown their armies large enough to mount an attack, after the amalgamation of the families in control of the human food farm called the Seven Kingdoms. The black plasma of the custodian species itself is also a part of the illusion mechanics of the third density's veil of subterfuge. Black plasma is what fills the fake parasitically installed membrane firmament with a reversed technology used for negative purposes only. The projection dome is their attempt to stamp out any notion in you that there may be any innate spiritual aspects to your makeup. They need you to believe 100% that you evolved from apes, you came after the dinosaurs, you do not reincarnate, you have Jesus, or your culture's figurehead, religious persona, that you are in vast space, separated from any other intelligent life by many millions of parsecs, or years, measured in the distance that it takes light to travel in 1 second, being 186,000 miles per second, or 300,000 kilometers per second. And this is likely true because you have to give the Goyim stuff to test and actually see the evidence of their research. It helps in gaining degrees and PhDs. It also has many positive outcomes for future deceptions. It stimulates funding for research and has many avenues emanating from it for a plethora of negative subterfuges. With these combined technologies in constant play post-1728, you are now securely in several cages. Not just one, you now live in a labyrinth of illusion, with your perceived perceptions, ordained by your expected expectations combined with the augmentation of your actual genetic senses, of smell, taste, sound, and touch, to finesse the parasitic overlays into your perceived paradigm, just like an antique French polisher can, in third density, blend in a new veneer onto your 1770 Thomas Chippendale cabinet's left flank, making it look part of the initial woodwork 300 years after it was created, so the parasites have their own special finessing techniques that they employ to solidify your perceived reality. These finessing techniques are highly advanced overlays, indistinguishable from real-life, solid, stable holograms that have texture and substance. These super soldiers doing the rounds on shows like Dr. Michael Sala's site, and Matey, that James Rank, and the people they gets on there, along with the Gaia.com Cosmic Disclosure's apparent collection of specialist witnesses within the black-budget special access projects of the military-industrial complex. All of these people are either CIA, MI5, or deep state assets to glue into your subconsciousness the fact that ET may be negative. Not only that, but they are highly advanced. Well, they are highly advanced if you happen to live in third density, but in real life, they are the 13-year-old with a hoodie and a penknife on a housing estate, stalking you on your way back from the shops at midnight. These idiots just need a good beating with a pool cue. Turn their head into a leather strap when they try to rob you. Same with the police and the parasitic system as a whole. Stand your ground. Do not be put off or scared by a parasitic system of enslavement, which is what this actually is. It's a system designed to remove money from your bond that you are totally unaware of while the fraud is happening. To be the same as the people being the same is folly. You need to realize that your discernment is required here and now, even if you have never ever needed to use it before. Now is the time to blow the dust of that discernment and actually use it. Why is there a 1666 birth certificate bond that no of us are even informed about? Why do they use fraudulent joinder to access this vast pot of cash that you are not even informed of its existence? Why, when you apply for a bank loan, do they not tell you that the money that they have access to is actually your own private money in the first place, and that high-level banking involves trading on your chattel numbers? Why do they offer chemotherapy in the treatment of cancer when there are several dozen natural alternative treatments that are more effective than chemotherapy and also cost a few pence to make? Why do they not tell you that your NHS treatment comes from your own Sestuiquavi birth certificate bond, and instead lie and say that the taxpayer is footing the bill for your treatment or poisoning? Why does the Pope wear red shoes? And why is Madeleine McCann's father, Jerry McCann, also seen with his cronies, all wearing red shoes? Why do they fluoridate our water supplies even though we are all well aware that fluoride itself is a rat poison? Fluoride has nothing at all whatsoever to do with the health of your teeth, so why add it to the water when we know that it causes all sorts of illnesses and diseases? And why do scientists that speak out about this fact all coincidentally kill themselves or die in car crashes? Why do they teach that the world is a globe, even though all measurements indicate that the world is in fact a flat and non-rotating plane? Why does history itself not just be allowed to speak honestly on the subject and explain that the globe idea was never a part of their paradigm in this history of linear time? Why do they teach a curriculum that serves no purpose in the real world? Why are they hiding previous civilizations? Why hide Tartaria? Why hide Mohenjo-Daro? Why hide things from populations unless you are trying to control them? There is no reason other than control, so if you like being controlled, well, good for you. But the rest of us have homes to go to. Yours is clearly here in third density. It's funny that Christian says that, Lee, no one dies, no one will die, the NPCs just phase out of the overlay because they were not here at the start, and they will not be here at the end, so their singular life is just about to expire, but they do not die. And I'm sitting there many times we have had this conversation, and I never vocalized my thoughts on the questions that I had, but I said to Christian the other day, in conversation yet again about the same subject, being NPCs and how they fuck off, and I reminded Christian that he has stated several times that no one will get hurt, and that no one will die, yet that NPCs will just disappear. So, in my mind, I like to understand things, and sometimes I hold back as I don't wanna look stupid, and sometimes I jump to conclusions and assume things that are ornaments of my mind mixed with partial reality. Nostalgia is a big one, to convert historical files in your mind to have a different glaze, patinaed by the aeons of time. Since the light that created the images in your visual field first hit your retinas to create the image there in the first place. So I asked Christian to clarity this point. Well, the kind of just phase out Leon, like phase out kind of thing. I'm like, so they basically do die then? He replied, well, they sort of phase out like I said, Lee. I'm like, so basically what you're saying is that the die phasing out. Well, yeah, you can look at it like that, Lee, yeah. So I'm like, well, why not just say that last year for clarity? Christian replied, well, because I didn't want to scare anyone too much. The reason I said they don't die is because they were never actually here, so they can't die. Their consciousness will just evaporate into the ether on the first or second flash. Claudio's information and Christian 21's information are inextricably woven together, as if the same story with two different authors contributing to the contents. So how do the naysayers explain his fact away as if merely nothing? Well, they can't. It sticks in their throats like a tar-covered pineapple, because obviously Claudio Nocelli and Christian 21 do not know each other and have never met or spoken on any platform. So this begs the question of, how are they clearly talking about the same thing when all anyone else has got to put in the blender is that their calculations show the Earth is actually a flat, non-rotating plane and the Roswell was real? That Area 51 has secrets, whereas Christian 21, and let's not forget that he was pinned for 6 months as the world's #1 truther. Bizarrely, I myself was number 2. Laugh out loud. I didn't even know until I was removed along with Christian, because Christian's truth didn't fit the expectations of the expecting Nasara Jasara crew who follow WDR, and it made everyone feel very uncomfortable about the gold they had set their sights on, the business plans for humanitarian projects that they had all written like diligent schoolchildren. It was quite surreal, because the world's #1 in any field is discussed and celebrated regularly, yet Christian 21's truth pegged him at #1 for just over 6 months, yet everyone was petrified to discuss him on a show, let alone invite him on there. The truth is that the truth is the truth. There's only one reality. Reality is not, unfortunately for some, a set of circumstances in flux that can be chosen at will to fit particular narratives in your own separate and individual lives. No, Reality is a stoic foundation of the factual nature of reality and the way that the cube simulation records all that transpires on the plane of life, and in all densities, the Akashic records even record your thoughts and emotions. It was never a separated instance where, depending on what you believe in, Allah, God, whatever, then the belief system will dictate your outcome. That was all lies. Everything was lies, all of it, everything. To make it through this, you need to get over it all. That means understanding it all. That means thinking about it all for prolonged periods. The carrot to research is the fruition of labor, or when you start to see sense in the material, when you get those aha moments, the times when you know that you now understand at least some truth, if not all of it. Have a look online, in libraries, in universities, and in people's lofts after grandparents have died, and all their belongings go in the attic, or the garage, stored up in the air, usually to keep safe for the future generations to view as they are growing up. Go through whatever you need, then answer me this question. How does Christian 21 know all of this vast detail on all of these topics, in all of these fields of research, and in all of these epochs, concerning all of the people involved, and regarding all the deeds that they were said to have done or that were attributed to them, information on their structure, their progenitors, their secret history that not even some of them even know themselves, their hierarchy, the way they came to power, what drove them, who indeed created them, why, when, how. Not only that, but Christian 21 is actually the world's only full and true ET disclosure. It's all from one man, Christian Matthew Sibley, from Southsea in Portsmouth, UK. He was the rough-cut wooden goblet of truth in the Templar cave of goblets, the Christos consciousness, the knowledge that your mind needs to drink truth and reality from, the retention of the Christ consciousness, knowledge of reality, a reality spun to you as mere fiction, removing your uniqueness and placing your inception as a rare yet insignificant accident of chance, when the truth is that you are all master of creation, light architects, fractal weavers, harmonic anchors, resonance builders, healers, and experts in all fields. Just as one single gray ET knows more than the collective knowledge of mankind, so you, yourselves, one individual amongst 500 million, you one person, know more than all the parasites combined. For the last 4+ years he has been vanquishing online claimers, liars, frauds, fakes. It wasn't hard, because Christian's truth and information is so unique to Christian, and because it covers all topics, it's easy to see who is lying and claiming, whereas before Christian BC Laugh Out Loud, it was more ambiguous as we did not have the measure of authenticity to gauge against, but AC, or after Christian, hit the scene, we actually had an easily explainable situation that makes perfect sense to anyone who bothered to investigate themselves. It gradually changes from a thought concept that changes into a tangible reality in your mind. The veil is then stepped through quite naturally, like with what you call here teleportation. You manifest an image in your mind of where you wish to be, or who you wish to see. You focus on the destination, or the person, and the image gets closer and closer until it's a clearly discernible in front of you. You then merely move closer towards it in your mind's eye, and in doing so, you physically shift layers of membrane frequencies as you enter a portal that has automatically opened in front of you to that location or destination envisaged. And don't forget that that was a long explanation. You do all that naturally in milliseconds. Normally, so don't worry, because when you get your memories back, it will again become second nature. Christian 21 has the only truth on the actual shape of the Earth, ETs, channeling, deep space, other worlds, our history, true physics, true geography, true manifestation, twin flames and soulmates, soul contracts, construction in higher densities, historical fraud, religious fraud, scientific fraud, industrial fraud, educational fraud, Satanism, red shoes, bloodlines, deep underground military bases, the ET world, ET councils, ET fraud, CIA implants in the disclosure movement, liars and fraudsters, those seeking fame, recognition, money, adoration. The most truth that any single one of them has is a lot of time practicing the art of faking it, or years barking up the wrong tree. Don't forget that the parasites knew you would come along, all inquisitive and that, seeking reality. So they sowed you seeds of falsehoods early on, in a long game of deception, so you will find you chosen historical truths, if you look long enough, or you will encounter a theory that best serves your perceived model of questioning, and you try to blend in your theory for your doctoral thesis whilst making it look like your thesis is the actual truth, when though about by the logical mind. The most agreeable fact that any of them ever had, and even this truth is not quite correct, is that the Earth is flat, but it's not flat, but it is, but it isn't at the same time. As mentioned previously many times now, the Earth that you are standing on is a projection of simulated layers or membranes. These are all at different frequencies and can be understood as separate sheets of glass stacked on top of each ether. Each sheet of glass has its own rules, access codes, symbols, and reasons for being there. Each sheet is its own field of existence, and traveling between them is a matter of alignment to the same frequency. The best that the truther world has on the shape of the Earth is that they think the Earth is flat because some of them put a laser on a frozen lake 10 years ago. Reality is a little bit more far out than that, I am afraid to say, more amazing. Yet, if you need to process all this in just 8 hours on the EBS, then it is a lot more shocking, because the human vessel needs to breathe, to get oxygen into the lungs. But with this level of revelations, the mind will reel at the enormity of the first revelation, so by the time the red shoes are being discussed, well, there will be no air in people's lungs. The parasites were so paranoid after the 1666 battle that they went full tilt towards your absolute oppression. They were terrified of losing their main asset, and also incandescent with rage that your kind, their food source, dared to rebel against them. Think about it. When have you seen a dog owner who loses his shit publicly when his dog disobeys him, causing experienced humiliation at his inability to calm the dog? Usually it's only men do this. I have seen this many times in just the last few years alone. Listen, you guys who are still contemplating the shape of the Earth, you need to stop. Step back from the conundrum itself and assimilate a set of previously unknown information, which, if used correctly and with a basic understanding of our historical tuition in the realms of what is called here historical records and the desired history that the parasites wanted you to believe, well, if you can bring yourself to do this, and that's a lot harder than you may assume at first, because of the very fact that the overlays and the nanofiber technology that the parasites have used to, in some cases, actually replace your pineal gland itself. If not, then this technology is placed right next to the pineal gland, suffocating it. If not, this grown technology that is completely undetectable to modern research as anything other than human tissue is in fact a crystalline array designed and grown by your own body after conception. This technology is the gate, the door that shuts off your inner self or your neshama, your soul, from your conscious mind. They use many different technologies to orchestrate your perceived reality. The chip in the brain, although not a discernible technology or a physical chip, is still yet a highly advanced technology to keep your spiritual apparatus completely separate from your conscious mind. This was essential, absolutely essential for the continuing harvest of adrenochrome after the 1666 battle with the Irish Tartarian survivors several thousand years after the initial occupation happened, thought that they could take on the parasites themselves. The problem here is that the parasites are a collective of several 100 million created monster avatars. 15 separate species of gray ETs were involved, and 5 main parasitic species were also directly involved. These beings, although only 4th density, had the help of many millions of ancient demons who, to correct the passage of information's undulating pathways, I correct here for the record, demons are not highly dissatisfied souls who did not return to source creation. Sorry, my bad. Demons are created negative energy, very powerful semi-multidimensional energy. Think of an intelligent NPC with superpowers. Not that there will ever be any, but it's like that. Claudio Nocelli describes in his conversations with Helen Morris, the ancestral woman, born from a copulation between a male Earth human, William Morris, and the union between an ancestral woman who Morrises met after first breaching the circular ice ring that surrounds this realm. The navigator who crossed the ice wall from the known lands to the ancestral republic in 1776, I think? Maybe 1778? I forget. Hasn't anyone thought about how did Christian 21 start talking about the ice rings from the age of 13, informing teachers when he was just 5 years old that the Earth is not a globe? How did he know all this information if he is not telling the truth of where he came across it? There was no other source, save a few lines in a children's storybook written 100 years ago of this information, until Claudio Nocelli published his first book, The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Wall. It's more absurd to say he's lying than it is to spray the content with the spray can of similar accusations. The Rothschild secret covenant lays it all out plain and simple. Even they do it so that children can understand. The Rothschild secret covenant, it's highly unambiguous. It lists, I think, from memory 73 points on the path of your destruction, 73 separate points that all work together in their final plan. It is well worthy of note that they had actually completed all 73 points on the list of your destruction. It's not something that they hope to one day achieve. It is something that they set out to do several thousand years ago and actually completed. All that was left to accomplish, for them, was the 8th reset, set to transpire as soon as Hillary Rodham Clinton won the U.S. general election in 2016, yet stolen at the last minute by the replaced Donald J. Trump. Remember, we told you previously that this Donald J. Trump is not the original Donald J. Trump because the original Donald Trump was taken out in a helicopter crash over a lake in, I think it was L.A., in 1989, which was the year I left school. So, since that date in 1989, the man seen by the public as Donald J. Trump is a white hat actor and starseed who was born as the genetic son and heir to General George S. Patton, the American World War II hero of the now nostalgic for some 1940s folklore. You see, as Christian explains, the families were all bad, yet after the last reset ended and the dust settled on a forgotten world, the senior souled souls of the last reset are the only people with intact memories of the reset that just happened, or recall of what life was like before the great upset that had transpired. What this means after the dust settles is that the same bloodline family's souled souls will need to carry on the bloodlines so the families grow again. Over a period of 40 to 60 years, there will be several new generations of, for instance, Rothschilds. But you must understand that some of these dark-souled soul families who trans their own children whilst still in the womb, either that, or they have to sacrifice their firstborn child. Think, Jet Travolta to name only one. Bleak options. How sad these cunts must have been. What a bunch of absolute cunts they were. I'm so pleased they are dead and gone. Sorry I digressed, where was I? Bloodline families. Not every single soul in these dark families are bad. There has always been a balance in somewhat way from the controlling factions of Gateway 10, aka Christian 21's cosmic mother and father, and the 150-plus ET species who have been working on saving your sorry asses for the last 178,000 years. Let that sink in, please. So, people like Diana Spencer, aka Lady Diana, or Princess Diana, was not a Spencer. Her real name is Lady Diana de Rothschild, and, as the name would suggest, she was a Rothschild, born from the French wing of the Rothschild family line. She was given to the Spencers. As is the way, they swap their children between families to obfuscate the genealogy for historical records. Usually the children are always abused and raped from a very young age to bring them into their new reality and learn the ropes, but not so with Diana, Princess of Wales. She was not raped. She was cloned many times and used to sire heirs in the Rothschild Empire. Neither of her sons were the product of Prince Charles, no chance. That was a marriage on paper only, so Diana would have been present at many sacrifices, seen the royal family all shapeshift on a regular basis, rape, torture, and eat children, and been fully aware of the situation at hand, i.e., the world is a satanic food farm. So poor old Diana was fucked from the start. Not literally, as I mentioned. She was not abused because to carry on the bloodline, they need a virgin of purity to ruin her emotionally, yet produce children for the empire's furtherment. From a pure and intact vessel, it was the same in Egyptian times. Nothing has changed except the public's perceptions and awareness levels. So there was always a balance in somewhat way between the negative families and the positive families, or at least the influence the benevolent were able to have in the ongoing war of good versus bad. There is a positive family called the Vandalays, who took a whole section of humanity underground with them, with the promise and treaty from the parasites that the Vandalays would never to return to the surface, and neither would any citizen of their new world. The parasites agreed to leave the Vandalays alone. The Vandalays created, with benevolent help, an underground city with its own infrastructure and shops, sewerage, transportation system, sun and moon. It's a small mini-world down there, somewhere under America, is where the location is. A positive family with great wealth disappeared underground a few hundred years ago just before the last reset. The Vandalays have been helping in the war against the parasites, reneging on their treaty with the parasites, as did all other worlds on Gateway 10. At the same time, totally fucked the parasites right up in a big way. They did not see it coming. They knew for a fact that no benevolent can renege on an oath. It would crash their positive simulation with a fragment of negativity, caused by just that small misdemeanor we would call it here in third density, but back home in the higher densities, just reneging on your word is unheard of in all of history, being a non-linear issue uninvolving time itself, so it's impossible for that to happen, except all worlds that signed treaties, reneged on those treaties, and in all worlds, simultaneously, taking the parasites by collective surprise in all their domains and safe worlds. Over many years, a plan was hatched to free the known lands at a point in the future where the new humanity could all know the truth simultaneously. The plan was essential because by the 1728 reset, there was already 4,000 of the most ancient souls in the universe, trapped in here looping on the same mind wipe tech that everyone else is hit with. It doesn't matter how ancient you are, because a reformatting of your soul's memory is still a reformat. It's not soul age specific or nothing like that. A wipe is a wipe. Like your ass. You wipe it properly. It's clean. But if you still have dangle cherries hanging onto your anal pubes after the wipe, then it's not wiped properly. You see how simple this is? So easy to grasp if you try to peer through the dangle cherry covered veil. So for the Earth's grid system, the powerful electromagnetic yet severely dampened Earth grid of natural ley lines, the energetic nodal points that crisscross the planet's plane, these grid points were created and sung into existence by the same 4,000 ancient souls mentioned above. These people here now incarnate as human food, same as everyone else is. Some were here when it happened, the rest came in, to what was then Realm 2, either long before the occupation started, or since some came in incarnated as Atlanteans and Lemurians, in anticipation for this event, the Great Awakening. What you, now here listening to, or reading this brief synopsis are actually part of whether you realize it or not, and whether you like it or not, nothing can stop what is coming. The strange thing is that Q and the QAnon who trawl the Q posts, Q, by the way, is AI. That's how come it can do cool shit with the Fourier deltas and timestamps, etc. Positive AI controlled by white hat military. But where was I? Q was to wake people up, which it did, after many realized that Q was actually real. 99.999% of QAnon are now barking up completely the wrong tree, led astray by the forgiveness of all debt and a quantum financial initiative. Nisara/Jisara and humanitarian projects, the believers skip along together, holding hands, clutching the pigtails of the narrator's curls, and a bunch of straws as they chant Hail Marys to hasten their redemption appointments. at the redemption appointment, were you to have been getting one, you would have been admitted into a FEMA camp because it's all by free will. You have to take yourself to the FEMA camp if you are a law-abiding citizen and have done no wrong. You need to deliver yourself there, as we must desire our own demise. They can't take you there forcibly if you haven't broken a law. They must dress it up so that we want it, such as vaccines, war, etc., etc. So it's easy to see that you wanting your redemption appointment because it is nothing whatsoever as you assumed it would be. You still went to get you Nasara tokens and your Q phone. The med bed you were hoping to lay in for 20 minutes when you got there was, in actual fact, a deep state fat fryer ready to batter you in, along with you children and all your dreams with it. Think about it for a minute. Look at me. I'm not shy. I'm me doing what I do. I'm not an author, although I tried and failed because it didn't make sense. How can I write almost 700,000 words on a subject that doesn't make sense, or that no one else will understand? If anyone else out there has tried writing anything whatsoever in their lives, let me tell you that it is a lot harder than you may assume, such as, where do you start? Try it. Get a pen and paper and write me a story. Email me it. Give it your best shot. I can write at full steam, 18,000 words in 17 hours non-stop from my head, not copy typing. That's impossible for me to do because I need to keep my eyes only on the keyboard, not flitting between the screen keyboard and the text being copied. So I promise you to have consistency, durability, clarity, certainty, and full transparency so that others can advance in their own cerebral progression because of the information, to not only envisage it, but to feel and taste it, smell and touch it with the fingertips of their mind. Well, there is your proof in the pudding, for this cannot be faked. It is real by its own observable authenticity. Nigel Farage is today discussing his policies for immigration, the fact that it is fair that British people have an issue with immigration, and that he plans to send millions home to wherever they came from, canceling indefinite leave to remain, reducing the 4 million non-EU residents down to as little as possible. But the fact that he was a child-killing sellout who also killed and raped children doesn't seem to bother most people, who shy away and smirk when you tell them these facts, yet deep down they know it is true. They just do not want to face that possibility and would rather wait till herd consensus reality is forced to entertain the notion of this as a reality, and for now, they can exercise that luxury. After all, it's all about free will. The thing that fascinates me most is all of it. It blows my mind because I know it is true. Every single aspect to Christian 21's information and revelations for the great apocalypse of mankind, remembering that the word apocalypse actually means the revealing of that which was previously obscured. It never ever meant the end of the world that was yet just more lies, as it was merely the end of their own satanic world being referenced with that terminology and the rebeginning of yours. Hello, it's so in your face. Please wake up. Please? When I am being nasty, rude, or just plain obnoxious, you must understand that, for instance, a while ago I mentioned the people that fight for the man fighting next to me. Brave souls that they all are, they are also heavily brainwashed. Likely all NPCs, but even if not NPCs, although back from their respective wars and conflicts, injured in most cases, in some, disfigured and disabled, this is an atrocity in itself, and I mean no ill intent when I may appear to mock or belittle any single person's suffering or the suffering of their families and friends, but you must realize that what is happening right now is unprecedented in the history of all creation. It stems back far longer than your singular conflict here in this world, where you lost a leg and some fingers. This goes back through all the many lives you have had here, and people need to be shocked into paying attention. If I was to stop swearing and being rude, people wouldn't know it was me writing these synopsis. It could get covered in the dusty old frequencies in the attic of yesteryears, though processes, like an old book in a car boot sale, or lawn sale, but I mean no ill intent when I'm seeming to be rude, or even when I am actually being rude. Mostly it's a comedy value thing, but often it's exasperation mainly, because 99.999% of the planet still thinks we are all barking mad, but it's them who are nuts, not us lunatics. We're all sweet. Unless an NPC, you have had many, many lives here. None of them would have been nice if you are a real Terran human or ET soul, and you were likely killed in most of them, as opposed to dying of old age or natural causes. I myself have been killed in most of my past lives. I've been burnt at the stake at least 2 times for refusing to conform to the Church, after several days of torture for non-repentance, in Montségur, France. During the Albigensian Crusades in 1211, I was tortured for 4 days, then burnt at the stake for heresy. Also in France, the previous life, or the one before that I forget. I was burnt at the stake again, in the Languedoc region near Rennes-le-Château. I was also killed in Mongolia in AD 670. I wasn't a Mongolian. We just lived in a village that was sacked by Mongolians, again the cunts. They raped and killed everything, as usual, assimilated the children into the then Tata culture, and the empire grew under parasitic oversight to flourish alongside a higher density version of Atlantean settlers in a higher density, who lived in a separate overlay on the same locations as the Tartarian, yet in frequential separation. People do not understand the time-drawn-out element to the derailment of modern society, the treacle-like nature of third densities, time extrusion into a non-linear yet perceptible distance of tangible observation, combined with the decay of bodily cells, mapping out the linear passage of time in a perceptible and average lifespan of third densities parameters of 20 years plus 10 equals 70 years IRO. Or, put another way, mapped out via the speed of day and night cycles compared to the physical age of the viewer's platform of observation. Back home, and when we say back home, we mean the higher realms that occupy the higher vibrations, the vibrations that hold the cortex of creation manifested into physicality by pure thought and pure intention. The obscure sophistication of the higher realms is beyond the capacity of vocalized communication here in third density. In the common law space, everyone trying to be all double eloquent, and that, there's no point. Push back with your relevant intel. Push back how you personally feel is appropriate considering your personality type. Maybe you are not able to be angry or rude like I am in correspondence with these entities, but tailor it to your requirements and also your own sensibilities. What works for you? My examples are all very unorthodox indeed, yet they all work 100% of the time, so you can gauge from that the spectrum of your aperture of functionality, use your own free will to act as the sharp end of the stick, honing your own natural area, style, or ability in your lawful rebuttals. Be as bold or as meek as you feel, but say the things that matter so that the court system, or the police, or the bailiffs, or the electricity board, gas, water, loan company, or mortgage company know for sure that you are not fucking about and that they know that you know your shit. Don't forget that they do not know that I have written the letters that you are sending, if I have in fact written any letters for you, but either way, let them know that you are fully aware of the scam. Then they can only threaten you 2 more times before they are breaking the law yet again. I'll cover that all again, and some important cannabis and cancer information at the end of this synopsis. Now, a breakdown of Christian's last 47 pages of finer detail, finessing the grand picture with the pigments of understanding, to bring the mind's eye to the appreciation of that which is real, that which is true, and that which was stolen from you. You all know this information. You are all well aware why you are here. You just had your memories removed. Not via Dracotech in the amnesia vortex. No, but by your soul family and your own agreement before coming in here to Realm 3. You see, because of the situation here, the lies, obfuscation and illusion, combined with what you call here the 7 deadly sins, where competition is taught from a young age, and where finance is the driving force post-education, marriage, 2.4 kids, and a lawnmower to cut the lawn into checkerboard squares every Sunday. A nice new electric car on the drive, actually. Listen, while I'm talking about it, electric cars. Now, how fucking stupid do you need to be to go and buy one of these vehicles? I mean, if they were $300, well yeah, go buy 3 to race on a field somewhere, but think about it. It should be obvious. The motors for these vehicles cost a few dollars each because they are making 500,000 units on a rolling contract. The bodywork will only cost about the same. To the manufacturer, I mean the rest of the vehicle, computer and wiring looms, etc., plus the glass in the windows. It's all peanuts. There is no amazing engineering masterpiece under the hood, no bewildering tech that could be described as any better than your mobile phone has, but yet these pigs in a poke cost more than a petrol car. Laugh out loud. Are you shitting me? No? Well, why does a new electric Range Rover cost £78,000 GBP? Why? It only cost about $3,000 to create the vehicle, maybe less, yet they sell them for £78,000. Oh, and you have to plug it in to recharge the batteries, so no one realized yet that for the last 80-plus years, we have all had a car battery on our normal petrol and diesel cars to start the vehicle and run the lights, etc., and the regular car battery charges itself while you are driving. And when I was 6, I had a push bike that had a dynamo on the tire to generate electricity while you were cycling. What is it that people do not understand? Or is it that it is in actual fact everything that people do not understand? So electric vehicles are the most blatant scam ever. Using lithium from mines in Africa to make the batteries, these contraptions are fucking dangerous and cost a fortune, yet are fabricated for peanuts. You lot got to wake up, really you have. Anyway, where was I? Before the darkness of human sacrifice even existed, all beings here in Gateway 10 were highly benevolent. No one was bad, nothing had turned bad, and the experiment here was a resounding success. The custodians were highly benevolent, highly trusted. They were our partners in Gateway 10's care. The custodians also stem from the Liran lineage, and as Christian notes, the term Liran, or Lirans, does not reflect on their feline features. The name Liran is used symbolically here to represent the courage, protection, and the strengths of a lion, as opposed to any anatomical resemblance. This was one of the many cards that Christian kept up his sleeve for the last minutes of third density to catch out the claimers and experts, who are all channeling cats from outer space, apparently LOL. Over a very gradual period of epochs, the custodians who, by this time, had the blueprints for everything that we had all created in the higher densities, where they too resided, but what happened was that over many, many cycles, the custodians desired more control, instead of just caretakers helping seed worlds and keep the balance, manifesting at the higher densities into physical reality, which was their only remit. They subverted themselves through pride, greed, jealousy. Very gradually, indeed, they thought they could do a better job on their own. They feared losing any perceived power, but the power they wielded was bestowed upon them for the extreme benevolence. They had more than proved themselves in the creation of the gardens. The worlds are referred to as gardens. Back home, worry, but I have to say this. Although there's only about 5 people who may understand what I'm talking about, but let me just say, 12 years in de Bumba Clot Garden, 12 Ras Clot years. They had possession of the blueprints for the entire cube and Gateway 10 itself. Terrible situation. They had the keys to the kingdom, basically, and they shafted us. They stopped serving balance and began feeding off of it by creating overlays, artificial and inverted grid systems. They discovered that they could actually harvest attention and emotion, what is referred to here as loosh, in its rainbow of frequencies, all of which are malevolent. The Anuk, the Anunnaki, appear after the custodians turn bad. This is no coincidence. The custodians created them as an intelligent workforce to act as their diplomatic arm of onboard deceivers. The Anuk were created as negative deceivers, but think of them as later players in a drama whose script had already been bent. The lesson here, lessons were learned, laugh out loud. The lesson here is not that there was ever a permanent enemy, it's that even the brightest can drift when fear and hunger for control replace trust in source creation. The darkness eventually becomes all-consuming and with time, total subversion occurs. The worst example of total subversion is the sacrifice of the most vulnerable sector of any species, their children. When you are killing children to better the life of yourself and your future generations, or maybe just yourself, then you know that you have hit rock bottom. You couldn't possibly do anything worse. The Anunnaki were the custodians' muscle. They were master builders and genetic engineers. Think Darth Vader from the popular movie Star Wars is portrayed as Anunnaki, and the Emperor from the same movie as a custodian, hooded, solemn, evil beyond current human comprehension. The custodians, so named as they were the custodians of the G. Attaway 10 experiment in physicality, they oversaw and monitored augmented and steered various world species to points of ascensional progress, reaching spirituality and well-being early on through the benevolent and positive flourishing of physical life. It was the custodians who created the Anunnaki, and a whole bunch of other species of highly intelligent yet demonic creations. All this happened a very long time ago. The Anunnaki came and gave pyramid tech to 65 of the 178 worlds here on Gateway 10 to come back 300,000 years later and use that same tech to subjugate the populations of the worlds that received the gifts. With a reset, they use the pyramids to generate energy to cause tidal waves and freak weather. Resetting as they progressed through geography, replacing each reset, the population's physiology, interests, desires, wants, goals, loves, hates. You get me? That's how it was. Imagine it as this, for this is the simplified terrain of the reality of where you actually stand right now. The soul in your chest was in a different vessel before you were born in this current lifetime. You had a different family, different interests, placed in a different era of time, and had a different understandings of reality. Sometimes greatly different, sometimes very similar, yet always in flux, realities on juxtaposition as it were. To explain this so that a 5-year-old may grasp the depth, your soul in your chest has had many lives since the occupation started a very long time ago. Your soul is your consciousness and vice versa. Your mind, soul, and consciousness are synonymous and eternal, never dying, always alive and always buys, busy in the physical vessel during waking hours, or normally busy during sleep time and rest. You see, normally, a planet's moon is the portal beings enter during sleep, because the physical vessel requires rest time and the soul does not need to do this. The soul will, when you fall asleep normally, you will exit your vessel and head to your planet's moon, where you will be able to go to other incorporeal realms for learning and experience. Think of it like a Zoom call. With a client who needs help with an issue, you send them the link and they join you at a specific time to meet on the Zoom call platform. The same when you sleep, you go into the moon, cross the transit band, and go off into other locations set aside for exactly this reason. These realms will only be visitable in light form, in your naked soul state. No physical vessels can enter these portals for a very good reason. The augmentation of physical matter is only possible in a physical vessel. Unless, that is, you are a higher density being able to manifest physical matter at the angstrom level, and indeed much higher, for angstrom-level engineering is itself only a third density issue. Angstrom-level engineering involves manipulating matter at the angstrom, 0.1 nanometer or nanometer scale to create novel materials and devices with enhanced performance, particularly in semiconductor chips and quantum technologies, by precisely controlling atomic-level features and surface properties. This miniaturization enables greater transistor density in chips, improved control over chemical reactions, and the development of specialized materials like angstrom porous materials for applications in separation and energy conversion. Yet even so, this type of engineering is obsolete in densities 5+. You see where your understanding lies? It lays at a stagnant level, like farting in a jam jar. Not that I have tried it, but one would assume that the fart spores linger where the heat takes them, meaning upwards at the top of the jar. I don't know. Maybe try it yourselves. Let me know if you can smell fart spores at the top of the jam jar, or if there is even a way to smell fat from the bottom of a jam jar. Please send a detailed drawings of your schematics for such a possibility, as I personally am clueless, because I was only using that as an analogy. Maybe if you get a really tall jam jar, the fart will coalesce at the top, but I'm sure that regular viewers get this. The custodians were the priestly class of cube system. They were the strategists and high-frequency manipulators. They never dirtied their hands. They merely gave the orders. At this stage, the lands of Mars were still pulsing with source creation solar grid energy, the natural energy of each planet. The Grey Rebellion, the Greys, enslaved by the Anunk, grew tired of being used as tools. They had the knowledge of overlays and simulations, frequencies, and the valve system itself. They began turning on their handlers in hidden ways. Draconian invasion. The Draconian entered later on, exploiting the Greys' discontent. They launched assaults on Mars and portions of the known lands, catching both Anuk and Custodians off guard. This forced everyone back to the table to forge a new parasitic treaty. The Big Carve-Up. This is where the Greys had more flow, more leniency, more room to maneuver in their own agenda. Because none of the parasites trusted each other a single cent, yet they all had no option but to work together or lose the main asset, so they agreed to co-manage the known lands as a shared farm for both energy harvest and also for the containment of the soul consciousness incarnate. This necessity created the councils of negative species. The 5 main parasitic species. 1. The Custodians, being cube priests and frequency lords, keepers of the reincarnation loop. 2. Anunnaki, genetic manipulation, hybrid bloodlines and control structures. 3rd, Draconian, military muscle, terror, fear harvest, and empire strategies. 4. The Greys, overlay engineers and abduction specialists, frequency masters. 5. The Nibirans, shadow parasites and dimensional siphons. They thrive on void tech and black plasma. Black plasma is the reason the night sky above your heads is black. It's not just plasma, it's a technology to work together with the overlay projection technology and the central valve. We must apologize for getting a bit out there with the new lingo, but it is what it is. All of the parasitic tech, goals, ideologies, and constructs all works together as a unified tool on the farm of. None of the parasites like each other, but they were well aware that if they did not stand together, they would be overrun by the soul families and positive ET fleets, so they stitched themselves into an uneasy alliance, bound by greed, fear, and paranoia. Together, they had created many fucked up hybrid armies, killing battalions of demonic beasts, to terrorize, reset, and cause unimaginable suffering. The orders to rip out the central spirit tree, the Custodians, being the parasitic priests of the cube system itself, needed the spirit tree removed, but they could not do that themselves. They needed beings with more technical skills. Multidimensional engineering was required to remove the spine of the cube system. This is where the Greys came in proper handy, being demolition experts, multidimensional masters, and exceptional engineers. Don't forget that they were all high-density beings, or at least the Custodians were, but as they degenerated, their simulation dropped densities. Radically, they knew this would happen, foresaw it. That's why they designed fail-safes into their plan. The Greys had become already enslaved by the Anuk, Anunnaki control webs. The Greys were not parasites per se, they were bioengineered through early Anuk experiments, but under the Anuk, the Custodians weaponized the Greys as frequencies technicians, able to phase matter in and out of overlays, and it was the Greys who installed the black crystalline valve locks after the spirit tree had been removed, teared out from Hyperborea in a devastating act of separating the oneness of source creation from its very core. Yet they fucked up as usual. It's like getting Laurel and Hardy to plaster your ceiling, or even make you a fucking sandwich. You wouldn't do it. You would not bother entertaining such fools to carry out a supreme chess move. They are stupid. They will fuck up, no doubt. And they did. You see, the fact that time outside of this here firmament is, as we say, non-linear. Time does not flow in one direction when you are in the higher densities. No, time is not a third density concept whatsoever. Time is manipulated at will. Time travel itself is to you as common as taking a crap here in third density. You don't forget how to wipe your crap hole, do you? Same as warping time back home. Jesus Christ, that's like a fourth density conversation. You lot are 9th density to 12th density. Some here even higher. But don't worry, you will all get your memories back, and you will also get what you deserve, whatever that may be. Being here in third density, how do you verify those statements? Surely proof is required in some small quota at least. Well, no, well, yes, but no. It's easily complicated and complicatedly simple, depending on your level of awareness. You see, the proof is epitomized in the scenery along the yellow brick road's path of the journey we traverse through life, hidden with overlays, melted into distraction by the very system that you yourselves are viewing life in from right now. As you listen or read these worlds, the world where you actually experience life is encoded into these words, whereas the world that you assumed you lived in, where council tax meant that your bins get emptied, where income tax made your country a better place, improving infrastructure as informed pre-election, where road tax means a better quality of roads, where medications cure illness. FYI, no medication has ever cured anything, merely masking the symptoms. That's where the research funding goes into, how to make the medication seem to work whilst causing other side issues that can be used to then prescribe more medications and so on. This filters directly into the Testui Que V 1666 birth certificate bond, and the big scam itself being joinder with what many of you are now well aware is colloquially known of as the straw man, or visual graphically as the scarecrow on the motion picture, The Wizard of Oz, which extremely uncoincidentally is referencing your actual scarecrow or straw man through Tin Man. Yes, TIN man is in plain sight showing you your tax identification number or national insurance number as it is in the UK. Same in America and the rest of the relative world's tax revenue systems. It's all the same thing dressed up as a tranny in a bikini, dimmed lights, Barry White playing on the jukebox in the background. The illusion is manyfold. The overlays are the integral part of the subterfuge, created off of your own understandings of where you live and what you think that you are based on the education system of faux understandings on all the topics covered in the entire curriculum from start to finish. The entry of the Draconians. The Draconian are mostly a demonic and sacrificial species, but there are many positive Alpha and also Omicron Draco. The white-skinned reptilians are highly benevolent and are an integral part of the Great Awakening through many means and avenues. The Greys had drawn long boredom with the Ahnuk, their creators. They were fed up of being slaves, tools in someone else's plans for retirement, yet they had amassed a grand amount of information on May fields of research and in many sectors of research. The Greys made an alliance with certain factions of Alpha Draco forces to gain power against their own oppressors, the Ahnuk. The Draconian brought terror tactics and brute force, whereas the Greys brought knowledge of the overlays. The spirit tree had to be removed. It was the physical representation of source creation itself. It had to go for their negative plan to even work, because the spirit tree is multidimensional. It operates in different states in all dimensions, as do some crystals, and in all echelons of the frequency-based hierarchical system of the Gateway Cube simulational experience, situated quasi-geographically within the actual cube locality itself as an experienced location of spatial dimension rather than the random fuzz of uncertainty. These words are meant for you to build a picture of the box that you need to break out of. Listen up, y'all, or don't. The choice is yours. I care not if you listen or do not. The only cost to you is payment with your attention. We ask only that you pay attention for a few minutes, for your own sake if not yours, for the sakes of those you love, of your families, not payment in a currency or crypto. You pay attention, you process, you think, you dissect, you understand. That understanding will lead to knowledge, and that knowledge will in itself mature into wisdom, if you allow it to. But if the cancer of the overlays pull you away from the path, then that is YP, or your problem, because it is the wisdom that you will need to exit the simulation's matrix, and not the knowledge itself. The knowledge makes you merely awake, not awake, and that is the problem for most, because they will snap back into fear and uncertainty when the time is upon them. The knowledge will give them Dutch courage pre-scare events. In the Great Awakening's finale, Because it is only the wisdom of ascension that can secure your place in the pantheon of ascending and evolutionary legends, beings who stayed true to themselves throughout the most arduous assessment of the soul's ability to shine in a bucket of faecal matter that you could possibly experience, marred by overlays and misguided by those that you trusted. Your path was resplendent with non-player characters, and the Muppets of the puppets that controlled the scenery as it passed your consciousness on the yellow brick road to the wizard's castle. Ordained by your own physical perceptions, the camouflage was complete, a sensory camouflage that interacted with your actual environment combined with your manipulated senses. The wall was created in the minds of the observers. You experience what you expect to experience. Your perceptions are perceived by the expected expectations of the expected, if that makes any sense. What falls outside of this is named supernatural, or in latter years merely as technology, with the advent of ancient aliens and Gaia.com's cosmic disclosure. Yet all that bollocks is bullshit fakery designed to lead you up the garden path, to the gateway of fear and uncertainty. The fear is knowledge-based, the uncertainty is fear-based. You are reverberating between at two low-level frequencies, fear and uncertainty. Yet if the wisdom here is gleaned, the light of truth will burn away the fear of uncertainty, and you will see the reality of certainty. You will be as the eye of the storm as opposed to the debris in the perimeters of the storm. A harmonic chord of pure light is created. This pure light is amplified to create 12 suns, ordained by the Council of 12 Suns, not coincidentally. Worlds, or cells, need light from a sun to flourish. That light is duplicated from the original point. In a cube reality of simulational experience, the suns operate independently, yet off these 12 suns come many thousands more, mirrored and duplicated, same as you would copy and paste a sun emoji in a Word doc. Literally the same procedure, replicating the exact same attributes. Yet, in multi-dimensional format, the attributes being replicated here are not just in heat and light, they are in portal tech also, multi-dimensional portal tech, facilitating the birth and rebirth cycle, taking souls to other light realms, all manner of soul-based excursions through the moon and the sun. By removing the spirit tree, they could insert the Saturn Moon frequency station. This connects the lands of Saturn, once an immense huge crystalline temple structure. They inverted this supreme temple to become their hub of darkness. It makes sense. They have to subvert the positive frequencies or their technology will not interface with your perceptions correctly. You would notice that something wasn't right. More apparent glitches and error code in visual relay or audiological communicate to the brain. Saturn was the hub of control, the actual center of the black cube AI tech that has fooled you all for so long. The whole thing interacts as a complete mechanism, orchestrated by the custodians, the cube priests who stole the keys to the kingdom. They knew exactly what to do to hijack the main system. They had been working on it for a few million Earth years. They even orchestrated reincarnation through this subverted system. It was a circuit board of negative perfection, but removing the spirit tree did not kill it. Its roots remained active like a positive weed of truth in a demonic paradigm of illusion and lies. The spirit tree clung onto life. The spirit tree, shown to you as a fantasy of fiction in films such as Avatar, is an actual tree. Its purpose is to act as source creation's semi- and multi-dimensional anchor through the 12 levels, or suns in the creational schematic of the physical manifestation of life itself, from light-based life down into the lower echelons of frequential experience, where frequency has to be moderated, folded, as it were, where beings at higher densities need to be folded into a physical vessel, a vessel of perfection, much like my current vessel is at this moment in time. I'm 52 years old. It's cost me a fucking fortune to look like this. I have the breasts of a 35-year-old female porn star, the gut of a stockbroker, the teeth of an aged bat, and the feet of John Casey Marriott. I look like the upside-down version of Grandpa Munster when he's not hanging up in the closet. Be that as it may, it's what you know, not what you don't know, and it's not who you know unless you are satanic. Then it's all about who you know as opposed to what you know. Don't forget that when you don't know, you don't know. The roots of the spirit tree are still active. Its system expands over the entire realm. Its roots form the nodes and nodal points that we have been discussing for the last year. The reason for the dampening of these sacred nodal sites, with graveyards, airports, prisons, cemeteries, housing estates, and shopping malls, etc., etc., is because the actual positive energy emanating from these spirit tree nodal root points is the life energy of the actual planet, and also the entire gateway itself. Being that the spirit tree is 15th plus density in construction, it manifests as a physical, earth-looking tree for those in the lower densities. Remember the motion picture Avatar and the giant trees that the Omaticaya clan lived in that film? In the film, the Omaticaya, or Blue Flute clan, lived in these trees that we are discussing at the moment, the same tree stumps that you today recognize as mountains. Indeed, many, many mountains here on Earth are in fact the stumps of these ancient and spiritual oxygen-producing necessities. Realms have massive trees, but the spirit tree in Gateway 10, here in this realm, 2, now Realm 3, soon to return to Realm 2, was of extra importance. It was Source Creation's anchor into the 12 locations of awareness and locality. The 12 suns promulgated the spinal cord of life itself, being the spirit tree that was central to the existence of the manufactured playing field of physical existence. And it is, in fact, Christian 21's coded harmonic soul architecture that activates the geonodes on this planet. The geonodes and the nodal points are all similar versions of each other. Smaller nodes will surround larger geonodes, the schematic for natural energy amplification and dispersal via the most efficient means understood, being 15th density UHF, or ultra-high-frequency crystalline temples that interface and receive highly energetic waves generated and also interacted with the emotion of the realm's populations of species combined. These sealed systems' entire inputs are generated from the natural system of harmonic resonance generated within the actual planet itself, via the physical placement of the multidimensional spirit tree that acts as the spine of the cube system itself. The roots of this tree still expand over the Earth's surface. Its nodes and geonodes are still very much active, yet dampened by the negative influence and overlays. As we said previously, your perception and expectations fuel this illusion by their own apparent expected manifestational experience, as viewed as an observer in third density, that is. The spirit tree generates the original source of light that the Council of 12 Suns used to split into the rest of the light that the various worlds require to survive and thrive into spirituality and well-being. It's the energy that powers the beings on the plane of existence. It's just different information. It's only different to what was taught to you in school. And bear in mind what it was that they were hiding with the education system in the first place. Child sacrifice, life beyond the wall, the earth being flat, space not existing. The spirit tree was created, sung into existence by the original Lyran builders, who first took physical vessels, as we say. Lyran, or Lyrian, does not mean that they looked like cats. It was refreshing their qualities of proud leaders, fiercely protective and very loyal. The Lyran terminology is symbolic rather than representing a species. The 5 masters of the Dome of the Forgotten Gods, consciousness is the prime element. Before earth, water, fire, or air, there was only consciousness and awareness, or the one who observes and imagines, who brings forth from nothing, through friction and frequency emanating into sound and then physical matter, as light is created from sound, so matter is created from light. Consciousness is the 5th master, but it is not a singular being. Being described, consciousness, with awareness itself, is a crystalline field of light that gives rise to all 4 other elements. It is consciousness that ignites the desire to create and strive to thrive with perfection at all times. Second master. The second master is water. Water is memory. It holds the vibrations and fluctuations, the deeper field of awareness. It locks in the feelings and emotions of the beings who live there. Water is fluid memory. The first rivers were shaped in the Dome of the Forgotten Gods, sung into existence as usual, as you do, bimble off all singing and that, creating shit willy-nilly, rivers here, rivers there, positive as fuck and that. Rivers were formed by turning raw resonance into reflective currents, and the understandings grew into a physical crystalline river system, nourishing every single plant and lake. Every single tree had exactly what it needed. Life hummed with the anticipation of creation and evolvement, shimmering whilst still with the excitement of merely existing. Third Master. The third master is the fire master, transformation and ignition, thought into action, light into radiant expression, the drive to become more than stillness. Fourth master. The fourth master is air, breath vibration and communication. It carries sound, frequency and intention. The air master formed the first winds that carried vision across the first crystalline membrane structures. Fifth master. The fifth master is earth. Earth is form, stability, and grounding. It is the lattice that holds the song or harmonic tones of the others. The Earth Master condensed vibration into structure, the crystalline grids that later became the Great Dome's foundations. The forgotten truth is that the fifth element being synonymous with master, itself being synonymous with consciousness, being always the root of the other four, but when the other four elemental masters created their own domains, many beings remembered the visible four. Over time, the fifth was forgotten, hence, Dome of Forgotten Gods. Hyperborea. Hyperborea was, and will again be, the main valve of the entire Gateway simulational experience. It was the spine, along with the spirit tree, the actual multidimensional connection to source creation itself amongst the carious densities of the physical plane. It wasn't just the heart of the known lands, it was the heart of the entire gateway, a resonance field. The spirit tree was the main axis or hub of consciousness for the known lands, and its roots reach into every dome, a true heartbeat for all 8 domes, and also the hub for all the other gateways to exist within. Mount Meru, or the Northern Rock, was key to the suppression, even the hearts and minds aspect to the war, to understand that the tree that represents your entire reality has been removed by a parasitic species, or species plural, that are now going to be harvesting children on a massive scale, and there is nothing you can do about it. Your sons and daughters are trapped in there, maybe your mom and dad are stuck in there, they're being here. But when the Greys ripped out the spirit tree, they couldn't leave a gaping hole, so they fitted advanced black cube technology into the wound to siphon light and invert it into the false lunar/Saturn grid. Saturn grid equals the main AI hub on the lands of Saturn. The black crystals that are emerging all over the planet and in unusual places were inverted from their original purposes. They were originally tool stabilizers' creation, yet inverted to become locks to hold in false frequencies in place. Positive ET have now targeted the valve technology at Mount Meru, fracturing the overlays that are revealing some of what is/was hidden there, not covered in ice, but overlaid with projected technology, as mentioned previously. Now, parts of Hyperborea have actually phased through the shoehorned-in overlay, revealing highly bizarre features, landscapes, and buildings, as mentioned, not covered in snow and ice now melted, but overlaid with technology. Fractured overlays that are now seeping through the veil of imperceptibility, to be explored by various teams and scientific teams. Some of these have been adapted with AI, and not all the footage is real. Discernment is needed, but the whole thing bolsters what Christian 21 has been saying for the last few years. Where's your proof? It's everywhere if you look. However, if you have eyes closed, you will see nothing except what others tell you is there, and then you must rely on their flawed perceptions. That is why you must use your own discernment, only. The black crystals were originally used to bridge the gap between thought and form. They also acted as resonance anchors for other realms, and were all a part of an Atlantean relay station connecting to Arcturus, and also the Sirio system. They look jet black, but if you gaze at them long enough, they shimmer an iridescent star field of moving light inside. Black crystals does not refer to darkness and evil intent in construction. They are the void holders. They ground pure light into physical matter by carrying the opposite spectrum. Think of them as the bass note that allows the orchestra of creation to stay in harmony. Black crystals here in Realm 3 were all inverted to collaborate with their negative valve technology, which is itself the direct link to the Saturnian cube system in the lands of Saturn. Saturn is a crystalline world with golden cities, ring bridges, and harmonic temples. These all still exist in situ, yet in the higher densities, the Draco overlays have suppressed the density the temples all over this realm, and also all other occupied realms sit upon, to a point where the physical high-density crystalline temple is overlaid to such a degree that although physically present, the crystalline structure's highly vibrating state is surrounded by heavily negative frequencies of pain and suffering, mourning, Wi-Fi, mobile phone towers and car parks covered in tarmac, prisons and hospitals, lunatic asylums, cities with sprawling council estates, etc. This reduces the ambient frequencies of the area, making the crystalline temples invisible to the naked eye of third-density human observational ponderance. Your local church in the quintessential English village's history-steeped hills is in fact still a crystalline temple, believe it or not. That structure is still there right in front of you, but its frequential refresh rate, for want of a better description, is vibrating so high that you can't see it, touch it, or feel its smooth crystalline walls as you run your fingers over the outer walls. You feel flint, sandstone, and other quarried materials. Not smooth crystalline walls several feet thick, but human-made masonry, because its blueprint is the only visible attribute to the structure, now obscured by a plethora of overlays suppressing the area to dampen the visual fields of the potential observers. And don't forget that a blanket dampening was done to the entire planet, so no one could ever see reality, even if they had a high frequency. Since the last reset, there was no chance of that happening for the reasons stated previously. They were terrified of losing this realm, their biggest ever and main asset. Countries and overlays. Countries, or what we call countries, are not fixed land masses as you perceive them. Each nation exists as a simulation cell, an overlaid projection within the larger dome. Domes have to be dome-shaped to bend sound and light. If the firmament was a square, your perceptions would be all off-key. Light would bounce around the simulation in a very different way. Think of it like layers of glass stacked on top of each other, millions of sheets of thin glass, each with its own scenery, codes, symbols, and rules. When you travel by ship or plane, or even long car journeys, you are not really moving across solid land, the way that it appears to you. Instead, the vessel you are in slips into a frequency tunnel or portal within the dome. You phase from one overlay into another overlay seamlessly so that it is perceived as seamless geometry, just like video game Minecraft, for instance. The illusion of distance and travel time is all a part of the projection. A plane traveling across the ocean is not actually moving across a vast body of water. It's gliding through a frequency corridor where the ocean overlay is rendered around you until you arrive at the next country/cell. All these overlays are projected through the electromagnetic crystalline lattice of the dome. Sound equals vibration, and motion equals the continuation of continuity, hence console or console. These all merge together to create the travel experience. Your consciousness is the actual engine that renders the simulation you experience, as we said, your expected expectations and perceived perceptions, and the cerebral French polish to the finessed images that hit your five senses. The only reason they installed this aspect to the overlays is because they need the illusion of distance, and travel in itself is the illusion. It's an optical overlay illusion of separation via perceived distance. This also extrapolates out into the cerebral landscape with other obvious fact, such as if it takes you 8 months to walk from the UK to Russia, then it's obvious that the other stars and planets must be billions of miles away. Surely. That's a given. If it takes ages to cross your own planet, it must take epochs to reach even the nearest planet. It also enforces the notion of borders, countries, and nations. It was all to anchor belief in a huge spherical world, instead of reality being a contained simulation. The parasitic dome architects, the custodians, downsized you through 7 resets to make sure that the populations felt small on a big Earth, instead of your reality of being infinite creators within a bounded field. As you awaken, you start to notice slips, time not adding up on your journeys, planes or ferries seeming to be quicker or slower than normal or logical, countries feeling like stage sets and not real. This is your soul memory restoring. You are starting to see through the illusion. You know it's phasing and not issues concerning distance. Countries equals overlays. Travel equals rendered fillers between simulations. Crystalline lattice equals the engine holding it all in place. Awareness equals the real projector equals your distorted awareness, bringing your fake third density illusion to your fake reality. Or what you see is what you get. Planes in the sky. Planes are not flying over a spinning globe. For a start, a commercial airliners can only fly at about 500 miles per hour. So, if that being known as fact, how do you explain a flight to Australia from the UK, also traveling the same direction as the planet spins? Because the planet is spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, and the airplane can only reach speeds of 500 miles per hour. So you see that the flight will never arrive if the Earth is a globe, but then it could be mentioned that the flights may go the opposite way around the fictional globe, but then the flights from the UK would not be 24 hours in length. Would they not be reduced by 50% if the Earth was spinning the opposite direction to that which the airplane was traveling, if at normal speed, being 500 miles per hour? In short, countries equals overlays travel phasing in and out of corridors or portals. When the flight that you are on from the UK to the Algarve reaches altitude where you can turn off your seatbelt, at this altitude, the airplane is now in 4th density, not 3rd. The airplane no longer needs fossil fuel because the jet engines are now connected to the 4th density ether. What airplanes do is not that they travel over vast landscapes. They hold you in a timed frequency corridor, while the overlay that you are traveling to is being phased or rendered at high speed into your visual field of perception. You will notice this only, maybe, if you reach altitude on your flight. If you undo your seatbelt and got to the toilet, you look out the window while you are waiting for a 17-stone man to finish logging off in the Kazi. You gaze out of then window and all you can see is a blanket of cloud below the plane. This is when you know that you have crossed the portal aperture and are now in the time-phased corridor. This will continue until the time that they wish to be understood as the flight time to wherever. As you approach land, the cloud dissipates and disperses. You see land, the coast, or lights and traffic mincing about miles below you. You know you are near your destination, but any flight over 2 hours is a time-looped journey of illusion, a projected simulation anomaly from a 12th density point of view. The clouds are the backdrop to the setting. You experience turbulence on the flight, but in reality this turbulence is not what is being described to you. Silly you, of course it's not what they are describing to you. The turbulence on all flights is not wind or temperature pressure drops. This turbulence, if you feel it on a flight, is because you are literally phasing into the time loop corridor, because the plane is in motion expelling energy to reach altitude. When you pass into time-phased corridors, the vehicle vessel will experience what is felt on flights as turbulence. Yet it is merely the transition between frequential layers of vibrational harmonic tones as you phase from the normal, i.e. where you took off from simulation, into a different overlay or time-phased looped corridor. It's the same thing with long boat trips, but on water, what you are traveling through is a crystalline field that very gradually shifts your awareness from one simulated layer to another. Think of it like a video game. The scenery repeats, and then, all of a sudden, you are there at the destination. It's like a highly advanced version of that. On water, it is the same, a repeated loop of continuous waves and horizon. Ferries, cruise ships are moving you through phased corridors, while the overlay of the destination appears as you arrive. In the old days, sailors reported the sea looking the same for weeks at a time, yet that was literally a looping backdrop to implant the illusion of separation via geographical distance. Continuous geography is an illusion. The system keeps you convinced in distance equals time. Long flights, sea journeys, and long car trips are rituals of enforcement to make the illusion feel real so that you believe that the Earth is massive. Without the illusion of travel, the dome situation would become more obvious, a contained simulation within overlays, and they could not allow a single possibility that you may realize what was actually going on after they nearly lost this realm to the Tartarian who survived Atlantis and ended up on Ireland, yet several densities above this third simulation off the coast of the United Kingdom in Ireland then washed ashore. Interestingly, off the coast of Ireland, UK, was another island named High Brazil. It was a magnificent island, its own simulation no doubt, because it could appear and disappear at will, so they say. But where was I? The illusion engine requires a ritual duration before phasing is complete. It's exactly the same as a highly advanced version of a computer game, where your reality moves into your visual field. Endless terrain washes over your senses. Your eyes absorb many different locations and scenery, yet you are sitting in your couch holding a controller for your console, Xbox, Nintendo GameCube, etc. Distance is therefore algorithmic in nature, a repeated time-looped scenery that you can actually interact with. You can even get out the camper van and curl one out by the side of the road and in real time. In reality, planes, ships, etc. are just like props moving through repeating time-lapsed corridors. The distance in travel, on land, sea, or air, is to give your mind the story of distance. Distance, terrain, air, and sea is all algorithmic repetition until you get near the destination. Without the time-phased loop cycles, you would phase in too fast, and therefore the subterfuge would fail. You would notice that distance is merely an illusion. Distance, as we understand it, is a simulation function. It only exists in this third density-domed simulation to create the illusion of separation. When overlays dissolve, the idea of everything being far away collapses because everything is a part of a continuous harmonic field, not chopped up into countries, cells, continents equals overlays. It's all created and traversed via thought alone, but it was hijacked by the custodians, as mentioned above. Don't forget that the parasites as a whole, because of the love and empathy barrier, cannot manifest in the higher densities. They can only subvert or augment current technology that someone else created. They have to steal tech. This was a huge problem for them. We think that cold fusion is cool. You wait till you get your memories back and remember how to manifest complex items into your physical reality, same as you do with your vessel. If you are a high-density being, and most people here are, then you don't need a physical vessel when you are in your normal situation. But you are trapped here on a prison planet as food and louche. Everything you learnt at school, university, or in any field, be that medicine, geography, science, religion, archaeology, astronomy, etc., is a carefully thought-out lie to keep from you several paradigm-shattering truths. It's the reason for all the lies, because if you even knew just one of these terrible truths, you would all revolt en masse. That makes you uncontrollable. And it is also very damaging to food production supply. When the public start killing each other at the wrong times, you need to kill each other when told to, not when it suits you. Once the parasite field dissolves and the overlays fracture permanently, there will be no need for buffer travel time, the fake 9 hours flight to America, or the 24-hour trip to Australia and the days at sea. This will all vanish. Travel itself will just become obsolete in the blink of an eye, because travel is a matter of immediate resonance alignment. You will see that countries were just overlay masks sitting on top of each other when the false grids are gone. A living, breathing field of realms, it's not a flat map of nations. 1. The Dome of Forgotten Gods' original function was as a memory dome. It held the living records of our earliest creations, the first thoughts of light and sound, the first awareness of soul families before physical form, like the old photo album that Nan has in the loft, with pictures of you, age 3, naked in the bath. It was a crystalline library holding memory in light code. But the parasitic inversion turned it into an amnesia zone, keeping souls blind to their origins. Memory became fractured, turned sour by religion and false gods. 2. Dome 2. Dome of Sheol. Original function, healing and rest dome, a recovery sanctuary for souls between incarnations. It had crystalline resonance chambers where we could be recalibrated and therefore return to source light without distortion. The parasitic inversion turned it into a prison world of shadows, or what religion would describe to you as hell or purgatory. Souls were looped into trauma frequencies, unable to exit. 3. The Dome of Silence was originally a pure frequency field of silence designed for deep connection with source creation. Here, souls would expand through stillness, where nothing is distracted from pure consciousness. The parasitic inversion saw to it that the silence became forced, censorship of soul voice, suppression of truth. Instead of stillness and expansion, it became silence and oppression. 4. The Dome of Hiva was originally a dome of harmonics, a resonance dome of pure sound, where tones were experimented with to generate form from frequencies. It's where we first learned that vibration manifests light, and light manifests physical matter. This is how come we say that you are living in a hologram, a living, breathing, and highly advanced holographic projection, because that is what physical life actually is. The parasitic inversion saw this dome hijacked into weaponized frequencies, similar to the 3G, 4G, 5G, and HARP or High Altitude Aurora Resonance program. All this tech is negative and harmful. 5. The Dome of Titans contains 69 worlds within its firmament. Its original function was the Dome of Builders, the great architects who created vast landscapes, mountains and rivers, and giant crystalline structures. It was the playground of reality, where giants of light wove reality into being. The parasites inverted the Dome of Titans. It became a zone of war. Some titans were fractured and fallen, some enslaved, beings of huge stature, shrunk down in size and resonance, trapped in density. 6. The Dome of the Five Peaks was originally the Dome of Ascension. Each peak represents a pathway to mastery: air, earth, fire, water, and the fifth peak, being consciousness. Reaching all 5 peaks meant integration of elements. The parasitic inversion saw it become a fractured dome of struggle, where souls were trapped, climbing endless mountains without reaching mastery. The liberation of the known lands is last for a very good reason. 7. The Dome of Portals was originally a dome of passageways, designed as the great travel hub. It had vast crystalline gateways, vortexes, harmonic passageways to move between domes and realms/lands. It was the artery system of the cube's containment. The parasitic inversion saw the gates sealed, inverted vortexes and parasitic entry points, like we see under the Vatican, access denied, except via controlled loops for soul sellers and bloodline family members. 7 domes, 7 gardens, and 12 years in D. Bombaclot Garden. Sorry, that's a PJ that not many listeners will understand, but I had to add it in there for posterity. The spirit tree sits central to the 7 domes, equals 7 gardens, and nourishes the entire system up through each density. Each garden has its own unique color tone and purpose. When the tree pulses, all 7 blooms in harmony. We live inside one vast, giant crystalline ecosystem. The spirit tree is the trunk, and when the parasites hijacked the trunk and destroyed the tree, all the gardens wilted. But as we fracture the overlays, the tree roots light up again, and the gardens return to their true design. Soul selling. Soul selling is an integral part of the parasite's hardware acquisition program, the hardware being the human soul. Because the parasites cannot create souls, they rely on human traders, so the recruitment mechanism is immortality, money, fame, wealth, notoriety. They chose to trade their individual resonance. This is what is meant by selling your soul. It's not an instant death, rather a gradual severing from source until they become hollow shells. These traders become the bridges that the parasites need to enter other realms. Without traders, the parasites cannot enter our grids. There is always someone who will sell their soul in this shithole third-density simulation. It's a world of greed, jealousy, hate, spite, where the need to be someone outweighs moral correctness. People are in a mug's world, run by non-player character herd conformity, where the lascivious sycophants pander to the pathetic, as the Pied Piper's flute blows the woodwind tones of treacherous dishonesty. The populace carry on about their lives, jumping off of cliffs because the person in front of them thought it was a good idea. The flow of events, World War III scare equals France, NATO, Russia, China, etc. Play their last card equals missiles in the news, sirens and emergency chatter. Alien invasion scare, Black Cube Tech collaborating with Mount Meru Valve Bluebeam technology, visual pandemonium in the skies with holographic UFOs fighting in the day, and nighttime aerial arena of the entire planet. It will shake the NPC world to its core. Then financial collapse, sudden market crash, banks freezing assets. The purpose is to fracture the illusion once and for all, and to shake the sleepers into asking the questions that they steered clear from over the last 6 years. They must ask these questions themselves. They must want to know what's going on at some point in the near future. Communications cut/blackout, internet, TV, and communications disrupted, only one military emergency channel open to the populations. This prevents the cabal-controlled NPC media, in case any were hiding in a broadcasting station somewhere, LOL, from twisting the narrative as usual. EBS activation. Military takes over the airwaves. EBS broadcast begins 72 hours in, when the power comes back on after the 3-day cut. The first truths will be unambiguous and devastating beyond words. You need to prepare for the unpreparable because mental breakdowns are on the way for people in your home. The people you live with and near are going to lose their total shit, and in a very ostentatious and flamboyant manner. Mindless is an understatement. They will be catatonic with shock and filled with incandescent rage. After the initial trauma of the revelations of the apocalypse, many will perish from heart attacks and suicide. Many more will want to kill police and other social service workers, even though these people never knew a thing about child trafficking, although still a part of that Luciferian system. And people will be so enraged. The fact that the bloke down the street who used to work for parking services and didn't have a clue either. There will be enraged people with pitchforks chasing people down the street. That's what the foreign military are for. These are not asylum seekers. Some are for sure, but over 95% of them are foreign military, here for the lockdown, roadblocks, and civil unrest to stop this mass public lynching. It will still go on in isolated pockets for obvious reasons, and they want you to see this unrest, but it will be semi-controlled when it happens. The truth will come out about the MMR shot causing autism spectrum disorder, or ASD, corruption, governmental fraud, child trafficking, bloodlines, organ harvesting, etc., etc. Until a coal years ago, I assumed that organ harvesting was a small-scale affair to get rare blood-type organs for rich people who needed them. But no, silly me, they eat your fucking organs like you eat a kebab. It's fucked up. Really, really fucked up. Don't worry about a few expletives here and there. I'm not here writing children's stories for bedtime. What is about to happen is unbelievable, and I have to remain true to myself. I'm not trying to impersonate a clever person. I'm trying to deliver a message for you to reduce the psychological impact of what is about to happen to you and your loved ones. I swear a lot less these days than I used to, so let's look on the positive side. The lockdown itself is as much to keep people in front of the TV as it is to stop them killing each other. They need everyone to see the EBS. Once the truth is absorbed, the veils and overlays will thin rapidly. With mass awakening comes the expedited ascension process itself. Craft will start to bleed through the overlays, decloaking as they come in. Not everyone will witness this marvel because the craft are UHF, or ultra-high frequency, and the population will be mostly in a state of fear and panic. Just as in the 1666 Great Fire of London, most of the population could not see the sky battle between the Atlantean Irish Tartarians and the Greys. They were at too low a frequency to see it. The same will happen again. So mostly, the only UFOs that the majority of the population get to see will be fake holograms, not even real craft. That way they can guarantee that everyone will see UFOs, even if they are only third-density holograms. Laugh out loud. The sky will literally open, and it will look like someone split the sky in two down the middle, so if there is still anyone left alive who hasn't had a heart attack by now, after this sight, I guess they will. At this point in time, the resonating souls will lead the ascending across the bridge. Christia 21's role was to lead as many resonating public through the shock into resonance, and I personally can't thank him enough. His efforts will have secured ascension for many thousands of souls, possible many millions. Only after, when we are back home, will we ever find out how many people he took home with him. Only the willing willed it to be. The reason it had to be this way is because if they opened the sky before the EBS, many public would assume alien invasion and cark it on the spot from shock, whereas if they run the EBS without the scare events, sleepers won't pay attention and switch off, and if they locked down too early, people would panic against the military before the truth is revealed. Expect a clear message, something such as, "Stay calm, you are safe. Military control active to protect you, not harm you. There will be no police at this time. They will all be stood down and arrested where necessary." This avoids panic and sets the stage. Then the unveiling of the parasite system, proof of corruption, banks, governments, royal families, media, the Federal Reserve, the Titanic plot we discuss many times, plus trafficking and child sacrifice, blackmail, bloodline exposure, depopulation agenda that you were all so keen on, evidence of parasitic manipulation of the royal families and their direct links to Satanism and human sacrifice, their connections to the Draco and other negative ET species. Then they will explain about the seeded souls such as Diana, Baron Trump, JFK Jr., etc. This will cause mass outrage, but also mass awakening simultaneously on a planetary level. Those who get stuck in the third-density basic simulation, a barren overlay with a lot of sand, these people, numbering the majority, will heal in crystalline pods, not med beds, because human tech is unable to cure advanced parasitic ET bioweapons, so they will heal in pods here in third density. After the dust settles back home, there are no governments, kings and queens, no class system, no powerful people, no professional people, no police, no hospitals, schools, or even jobs. Outside is run by small councils of elders, seers, healers, and builders. Each world has its own council, and they are always linked to all the other councils, and to the greater web. All manufacturing is done with consciousness manifestation and pure intention, amplified crystalline technology. Positive power is not domination but alignment. When one soul raises its tone, it lifts the web inside and out. The Council of 12 Suns is the stewardship behind the creation of worlds and the maintaining of equilibrium throughout all the other councils. Each of the 12 suns is a pillar of resonance. The Council of 12 Suns guide creation without force. Christian 21's cosmic father is Raphael, or Ra, equals the first pulse of light, Fa equals the breath, the light wave, and El equals the spark of the eternal, and Christian's mother, Celestia, equals C. The clear note of a bell, the sound of beginning, Les equals the field of stars equals nodes, lenses, harmonic lenses, crystals, and Tia equals the descending blessing or return home. Phonetically, to pronounce here in third density, Si Les Tia. Don't forget that all ET names are always split into three. Top generate harmonic tones. Back home people's names are tones that you can feel in your very soul, not letters representing a job that your dad's dad used to have when everyone wore top hats and shit like that. Baron Trump's mother is Lady Diana de Rothschild, aka Diana Spencer, given to the Spencers to raise as a pure virgin. She, however, endured a lifetime of witnessing sacrifice and being present at sacrifices, witnessing adrenochrome harvesting and all sorts of crazy shite that you just do not want to involve yourself with, such as Alpha Draco shapeshifting. After all, her new family were all shapeshifting reptilians that kill and torture children. I doubt it can get all that much worse than that. Baron Trump is of Diana's Sol family. He is required here to replace her presence. He carries the same solar codes, being the harmonic structure, that his lineage stems from, required here for grid activation and other reasons that I can't remember because I have been typing for 18 hours today and I'm fucked, to be honest. I'll remember one day, I'm sure. Never mind. Melania's role is public narrative. Baron's role is as a silent guardian, seeded into the Trump theater family to dismantle the bloodline system from within. That's why he radiates differently from other members in that family. Diana's staged Paris death was a removal op, not a death. The real Diana was phased out into a safety zone beyond parasitic reach. Her role was done many years ago. She created Baron. Her solar family lines anchor here in Realm 3, and she had completed her mission. She will be all fixed up, watching this play out till the end from a mothership, quite likely. The lucky cow. I'd rather have had my job here than hers, though. Fuck that. Melania Trump was also phased out several years ago. She was a Romanov, useful for the parasites at first. Then the White Hats changed her role for the sleeper narrative. Her current vessel is a mimic, a robotic dummy to explain Baron's existence. Original Trump was removed in 1989 in a helicopter crash over a lake in, I think it was Los Angeles? I forget. It matters not. The Trump on TV is being played by about 6 different people. Don't forget that Trump was the fabled Antichrist of the failed last reset. 3, maybe 4, flashes. 1. The first flash shakes the dome simulation, clears parasitic residual overlays, disrupts mimic signals, and glitches NPC perception. 2. The second flash activates resonating souls. Their hearts start to synchronize with the tone. Third flash splits all remaining overlays, fake timelines fracture, and NPCs will slip into their dissolving loops. Remaining souls will see things far more clearly by this stage. 4. The fourth flash is the seal breaker. When the central spirit tree reconnects to all the other domes and worlds, portals will become active and again open, the resonating souls on the right frequency and vibration. The reason that they say that there is dangerous solar activity is because if they admitted that it was ET consciousness alignment between fleets of craft and the sun, they would lose control of the illusion instantly, so they dress it up in fear porn about radiation, sunspot activity, power grids going down, GPS issues, etc. But for the awake souls who follow Christian 21, it's the song of return. The sun was designed as a portal node or gate, as an entry and exit point for souls into and out of the dome system. It's the main artery of light, a way back to source creation or a way in, to seed new vessels. Pure solar fire equals remembrance, expression, and connection. The parasites overlaid filters so that the sleepers can only see a burning ball and not a living gateway. The moon's original function was as a resting hall, a dreamway station, where souls could review, heal, and even weave probabilities during vessel sleep time. It was never meant for recycling and control. It was for gentle reflection and balancing. The parasites hijacked the moon, turning it into a looping station. Instead of resting, souls were pulled into a forget cycle, where memories were erased and contracts imposed, karma loops coded in. This is how they keep reincarnation locked into the prison grid. Together, the sun and the moon were inverted, hiding their true purpose. The moon was made to look like a rock, and the sun's gate function was hidden from you. They worked together for the parasites. This way they had tight control over the entry and exit points to this simulation, with the loop entry-exit blocked, memory-wiped incarnation with no way out. Now the moon is losing its trap field. For awakened souls, the dream state is no longer hijacked. We can step above their inversion and walk free in the higher astral. Eclipses and the parasitic ritual. The darkening of the sun is a parasitic ritual. It's not to do with astrology or astronomy as you would assume. It's because the darkening of the sun is when the parasites siphon attention and emotion. The mooncap and black cube tech takes this moment and shows an optical illusion, an attempt to harvest many emotions at the same time. From fear to godlike elation, fascination, and also the illusion of separation yet again, a massive solar system with orbiting moons, planets, and black holes. It's all bullshit. In the moment of the eclipse, those few seconds as the dust cap that covers the moon's, or the sun's, outline, the parasites siphon off their loosh from this interaction with millions in awe of the experience. Consciousness as travel, movement, or travel, depends on where you place your focus, just as shown to you in the movie Jumper. Haven't seen it yet? Go watch it online. You will understand better having watched that film. Souls naturally teleport shifting frequencies, which the sun star nodal points amplify. The sun, moon, and star nodes are all crystalline plasmatic structures. When Christian talks of the Lyran lineage, he is talking of the line of consciousness that carries the lion's qualities, strength, protection, heart. Not that we were all lions at one time. We chose this emblem to remind us of who we are. There are many races and species that evolved over time that carry the feline DNA. This genetic is used for its qualities. The lion is a symbol. When people speak of the Lyran lineage, it points to qualities of consciousness, courage, noble of heart, protection, strength. The lion is the closest earth animal to represent those qualities and the image to match the vibration. The lion was adopted and subverted by the parasites into various royal sigils and coats of arms, again manifesting our highly benevolent symbols for their nefarious subjugation and control purposes. When people say that the Lyran lineage seeded our DNA, it's not a splice of feline human genetics. It's a poetic way of saying that the codes of courage and balance were placed in the human consciousness. That's the reason all true souls strive to help, to be nice, to share, and to protect. The Lyran current is this: heart-centered courage, loyal protection of life's balance, leadership through service as opposed to fear. The lion is a symbol, not a species when discussing the Lyran lineage. The parasites state, through your education system's tentacles, in history lessons, forbidden archaeology lessons, abstract historical thesis, etc., that the Dogon tribe of the former French Sudan in Upper West Africa were in possession of knowledge that they literally could not possibly have had unless their strange story was, in fact, true. The Dogon tribe had kept an oral tribal tradition of bewildering accuracy on an apparent celestial object in the night sky, and other celestial objects invisible to the naked eye in the same location of space, that of the Sirius system. Most people know that Sirius B is the brightest star in the sky, arguably sometimes, depending on light pollution and clouds, etc., atmospheric conditions and so on, but they are not aware that several hundred years ago, a tribe in what was known of as the former French Sudan, a remote West African village with a cluster of satellite villages called the Dogon tribe, now quite famous since the author and 33rd degree Freemason Erich von Daniken covered them publicly in a massive way in the 1980s and onwards, have held at their core belief system that the star that we know of as Sirius B is the homeworld location of their progenitors, beings who descended from the sky, landed in a lake, and lived under the surface of the water. Emma Ya then exited the submerged craft and taught the Dogon farming, textiles, agriculture, etc., and also of their origin in the stars. Emma Ya spoke to the Dogon in terminology that they would understand, with colloquial drawings and depictions. Emma Ya informed the Dogon that their species live underwater in a solar system near what we today call the Sirius B star system, and that Sirius B should be known to the Dogon as Po Tolo, Being the smallest and heaviest thing in their paradigm, po-tolo is a grain of a species of corn. It is very heavy for its small size, and science proved that indeed the star Sirius B is indeed the heaviest thing observed for its size. NASA calculates that a matchbox full of material from the surface of Sirius B would weigh 1 metric ton if inside our atmosphere. It's all deep-seated and complicated lies to implant in you the separation that you feel and experience, when in actual fact there is no separation. Can you see, with this one small example, parasitic future planning par excellence, it serves many purposes. To cement in the future's planned narrative, it also gives the nonconformists, or people who smelt a rat early on, an avenue to pursue where they will indeed find closure, because, as only one small example, the Dogon of former French Sudan did indeed have this information before the fact that a distant star that was only photographed for the first time in 1972 on board a USS Navy ship that I forget the name of right now. Walter C. Irvingblad, from my failing aluminium-addled brain, was the naval astronomer who first captured this remote star in 1972, documenting it for the first time. So how could the Dogon tribe, who have lived in situ for at least 3,000 years, have access to the data on the waxing and waning moons of such distant worlds? Listen, these cunts are so full of shite, they say that Sirius B is the closest star to this solar system that Earth resides in, yet the cunts, it is not even called Sirius B, it is called Sirio B, and Sirio A and Sirio C, hijo de puta madre, as we say in the lower half of the Spanish Alpujarra. I've got some stories from the lower half of the Spanish Alpujarra I can tell you, but as we say in Sirio B, what stays in the lower half of the Spanish Alpujarra stays in the lower half of the Spanish Alpujarra. Laugh out loud. Sirio A, B, and Sirio C are all located on the flat plane. They are just 3 of the 178 worlds under the Great Dome. The star is the overmarker, the realm is the reality, and it's not the closest star system. It's actually one of the furthest away from us here in Realm 3, because the Sirius system is on the perimeter of the Great Dome, not anywhere near us here on Earth. It is not a ball of gas. The Sirio system are fertile lands. The first positive creations of the Lyrian lineage were created in the Sirio system. The Sirio system was the starting point of seeding other domes/realms. The Sirio system was custodian-assisted evolution. You see, they lie about every single thing. If it close by, they say it is far away. And if it is far away, they say that it is close by. There was no escape whatsoever in this illusion. It spanned time and space. It covered every emotion, every thought, every action. Even in your sleep, you were derailed from reality, entering gateways that had no conclusion, dead ends that saw you subverted from your desired passage into time-shifted fake zones of struggle and trauma, a burrow of illusion. Sirio system was the starting point of DNA refinement, where the Lyrian qualities were first seeded and then shared across all physical worlds, domes, membranes. How souls break through the final collapse. 1. We do not fight NPCs, we starve them of supply. 2. We guard against traitor souls by refusing fraudulent contracts, manipulation, and fake light. 3. We starve the parasitic field by holding resonance, refusing fear, amplifying light grid frequency. Then, and only then, the chain breaks, and the whole parasitic structure collapse. The spirit tree at the center of the known lands wasn't just a tree in the third density understanding, it was the anchor of source creation itself, through all densities, all worlds, pulsing harmonic currents through the crystalline lattice grids, holding the heartbeat of this great dome and all others. The bridge to the other domes, forgotten gods, Hiva, Sheol, Five Peaks, Dome of Silence, etc., are all layered like sheets of glass, or crystalline membranes. The spirit tree was the trunk, relaying and feeding every other dome with source light, through its roots and branches. The Great Dome was the only dome made physical or dense, and that density itself acted like an harmonic amplifier to fuel the other worlds. This is the reason why we built the physical overlays, so the resonance could become stronger and burst out to the forgotten gods and the dome of titans, etc. The custodians knew all this. They were the ultimate betrayers that all betrayal has stemmed from. They are the dark force in every sci-fi movie. They were the evil Wizard of Oz, lurking behind the curtain that hung in the halls of the Emerald Castle, the depiction of the same castle that you yourself have visited in the tropical region of Antarctica, which is not a continent whose landmass closest touches the tip of South America. What you call Antarctica is situated at what you refer to as the North Pole. It is a vast landmass that has been heavily overlaid with projections to keep you from seeing actual reality. The parasites hijacked the overlays. They inverted each dome's resonance and true purpose to the opposite of its function, converting all attributes into prisons. They ripped out the spirit tree's central trunk and replaced its power and purpose with their inverted black cube tech, what the Earth human calls Project Blue Beam. Instead of energy promulgating outwards to all worlds and in all densities, they reversed it to suck energy out in many forms, Loosh being just one form, to feed themselves, hence the term parasites. Project Bluebeam is advanced holographic system built into the Black Cube AI system. That closes Christian's last 47-page pad, probably the last synopsis. I doubt there is need for any more. We covered it all and much, much more. You guys are amazing, and on behalf of Christian 21 and myself and all the resonating souls, thank you for your attention. Big love, people. Leon George Sinclair, or ;Leon-George Sinclair.